Okay, so let's get straight back into the action. We left off in this situation, with Unai Simon wanted by Newcastle and Bayern Munich, and we also had the chance to negotiate a better deal. We tried to respect the Nico clause, meaning we have to accept any bids more than his market value, and even when we negotiated quite close to it but still below his market value, Bayern didn't agree to sign him. Newcastle didn't offer us anywhere near enough to have to accept either, and thank God, we're keeping our goalkeeper for at least the next 6 months. Somehow, we actually survived the transfer window with Simon, Nico Williams and Sancet all in our squad, and boy will we need them, because this episode is going to be fully focused on how we got on in the Europa League. I hope you're ready, because this is going to be a very match-heavy episode, so let's start our Europa League campaign. Our first test came away in Rome against AS Roma. Thankfully, we had noticed that they had already parted ways with Dybala, which did make us feel a little bit more confident about beating them, but still, it was a very challenging opening match. In fact, in the first 5 minutes, Geografifa had a really good opportunity to put us ahead, but couldn't quite convert. A couple of minutes later, Sancet showcased some of his skills. He danced through a couple of defenders and blasted it into the back of the net. 1-0, and it's a big goal in our first game of the group stage. Just before half-time, Unai Simon would prove his worth with a stunning double save, reminding us of exactly why we fought so hard to keep him from going to Bayern Munich. As the clock ticked on, he also came through again in the 71st minute, denying a fierce Roma attack, and somehow we would hold on for a crucial 1-0 win against a Pot 1 opponent. So next up was AZ Alkmaar, who also had the Europa League's top scorer, Troy Parrott. Was he going to be a threat? Probably not. He's not the best player in the world, is he? And our team is so much better than theirs. But to be fair, Troy Parrott did actually cause us quite a lot of threat. He forced a double save from Simon early enough, but it wasn't really enough to rattle us. Bachiche had our first real chance, blasting one over the bar, and shortly after, Sancet would miss another good opportunity. I mean, just look at the shots on this graphic. Surely at least one of these should have gone in the back of the net. We just needed to take one of these opportunities, so when Berenguer played a perfect pass to Iñaki, who would outrun Martins Indy, Williams would hammer it into the top corner for a pretty spectacular goal. Honestly, the celebration was even more spectacular. What a flip that was, and we would fight for the rest of the game to keep a second 1-0 win against what turned out to be a very good side. That's a Pot 1 and a Pot 2 side down, and we're another step closer to the knockout round. We also got lucky that our second Pot 1 team was Slavia Prague. They're the worst ones in this pot. It could easily have been Spurs, Man United or Frankfurt. Instead, it's a team that's rated worse than any team in La Liga. Before we play the game though, we actually agree a new contract for Nico Williams. Not only is his buyout clause now over £200 million, but hopefully it will also stop any bids that come in for him in a couple of months' time. To celebrate, I think he probably gave his best performance of the season. Basque was the one that opened the scoring, but he was connecting with Nico's cross before he blasted it past the keeper. Slavia did try to strike back. In fact, they had a 6'9" striker who won this free kick. It was expertly converted to level the score, a second free kick conceded in about the last 10 games. Even though Slavia are one of the highest ranked teams in the competition, we kept pushing and Geografifa would hit the post. Iñaki would do a nice cross after some good play, and Sancet would smash it at the keeper from about 6 yards out. It felt like we just weren't going to score this second goal. But finally, Geografifa would play the ball through to Nico Williams, 1-on-1, and he would beat the goalkeeper. We went defensive when we had the lead, and held on for a second home win in a row, and a third win in a row in the Europa League. So you might actually be wondering now how we're doing in both La Liga and in the Europa League. Well, let's start off with La Liga, where we have started really well. We're currently in third after 12 games, but we've also only lost a single match. We're also third in the Europa League, and one of only 3 teams to have won all 3 games that they've played. I have a feeling that's going to get extended because there's not many times you can knock a team out of a competition halfway through, especially in this new Europa League format. But that's exactly how bad Drogheda United are. These are always the most fun games in FIFA, and I'm fully going for goal difference here to see if we can end this week in first place of the Europa League. The first goal basically sums up the entire match. It was hilariously bad defending and should have been a Nico Williams goal, but we recycled it and it turned into an Iñaki Williams goal. We kept pushing, and despite their goalkeeper actually being really good, turning away shot after shot, we just couldn't get that second goal. Then, Out of nowhere, we spotted this run from our centre-back Jure. He joined the attack and showed our strikers exactly how to finish. Serrano would make it 3-0 off the bench by timing his run to beat the offside trap, and Martin would blast it in to make it 4-0. This hilarious goal makes it 5-0, and to make it even better, our players would then celebrate in front of the Irish fans after humiliating their defender. We would settle for 5-0, but really it could have been even more. In fact, both Napoli and Midtjylland have drawn, so now we're fully established as the only team to have won all 4 games in the Europa League. Get in. If we can just get a win and a draw from our next 4 matches, we're into the last 16. If we lose all 4, we're still into the last 32, so we can feel pretty comfortable about our position now. We don't actually have a better chance of winning a game than playing against Elfsborg, and this is a team that's lost 4 out of 4 and actually conceded 3 more goals than Drogheda, even after we stuck 5 past them. Of course, we're going to go for yet another battering, and Sancet's corner kick found Vivian's head, and that was 1-0 up pretty early on. Serrano followed up with an impressive dribble, passing to Ruiz de Galarreta, whose powerful shot did nearly find the net. Elfsborg would win themselves a free kick though in a rare attack, and it was chipped in, and their header hit the post before bouncing across the goal line to be cleared. Elfsborg would continue to find some space on the right wing. This time they reached the byline, they cut it back, their striker dribbles past 3 before tapping it in the far corner. I can't believe it's 1-1 against such a bad team. We have to make a change, so Nico and Iñaki Williams come on, and nearly instantly combine for a goal. A few minutes later, Nico would eventually find Berenguer out wide. He would pull it back across the goal, and Iñaki would smash it past the keeper into the net. To finish off Elfsborg, Iñaki would get the ball on the edge of the box, scoop turn past one defender, and then from nowhere, he would smash it top bins. With our win confirmed, all we need now is 1 draw from our next 3 matches, and we're into the knockout round. We would get that draw in our next game against Fenerbahce, and I felt like we had a pretty decent chance of winning this whole tournament. All we have to do now is try and survive the transfer window with all of our good players intact. So, we are officially going to be signing some players this month, but unless we get a huge bid for one of our superstars, there are only going to be academy players joining the club. That's right, for the first time our academy scouts have found some youth players that legitimately count as Basque, and honestly it's about time. Xavi Gomez and Xavi Reyes are both young enough to count as trained in the region, and there's no doubt that Aitor Sierra is a Basque name. Finally, the club has a new generation of prospects about to come through. That's pretty much all that happens for the first 3 weeks, and I don't know why I was so worried about losing any of our players. We've made it to the 22nd without actually receiving a single bid for a single player, and if we fast forward to deadline day, it finally happens. We receive a bid for Unai Simon from Atalanta, and I don't know how they've got this much money, but please can his market value be higher than this? So we head over to the squad hub. His value is £50 million. The offer is £65 million. The Nico clause is activated and we have to accept this deal. I actually decided to negotiate it a little bit higher so we can have some money for the summer transfer window, but our most consistent and probably most important player is going to be leaving just before the end of deadline day. We could always sign someone like Kepa when his loan ends, he's still kinda high rated, but until then we'll just have to use Julian Aguirre-Zabala instead. With 8 hours left, please can we not get a late bid for Nico as well? In fact, 2 bids come in, Berenguer and Vivian, but they're both bad offers and both get rejected. The clock would keep running down, and somehow we had survived with Nico, probably due to us offering him that new contract a few months ago. Okay, so let's get straight back into the Europa League, and we've left off with 2 games in the group stage left to play. We actually won both of them and got drawn against Victoria Pilsen in the round of 16. Victoria Pilsen aren't the best team in the world, but before we've even really settled into the match, Pilsen's forward would smash one off the crossbar and our keeper couldn't get to the rebound. They would volley it home, and less than 3 minutes in, we're already 1-0 down in the knockout rounds, so it's definitely not the start we were hoping for. But we can definitely still fight back. In fact, Berenguer would pick up a lucky deflection in the midfield, he would beat his man and then run clear. It was just him versus the keeper and he doesn't miss, he slots it past them and we're back level. The rain is actually making it so hard to get into our usual rhythm though, and we're forced to defend quite deep. Out of nowhere, we mistime a tackle in the box, the referee points to the spot, it's a penalty to Pilsen. They would convert it, and all of a sudden we're down 2-1 yet again. Things get even worse when Nico Williams has to go off because of an injury. He's been lively, even if he is inconsistent, but as he was forced off, we brought on Iñaki instead. It doesn't take long for him to have an impact. Iñaki would time his run perfectly and latch onto a through ball from Sancet. His Trivela shot would curl just inside the far post. It's 2-2, all square again, and we're back in the fight. A few minutes later, Pilsen's Durasinmi finds some space on the counter-attack. He manages to control the ball really well in the rain, and then buries the finish. It's 3-2, and the clock ticks down. We're throwing everything forward trying to make this 3-3. Serrano has a late shot blocked, and Sancet's last effort just whistles past the post. The final whistle blows, and we're left with a narrow loss. It's a tough result, but we're just going to have to regroup for the second leg that's back at San Mames. If we look at our squad, we're actually going into the second leg looking kinda weak. Nico Williams, Sancet and Vivian are all unavailable, but we should still be better than Pilsen, and all we need to do is score 2 goals and we're in the quarterfinals. We kick off with the same tactics we used against Drogheda, going attacking early on, and Bacice would flick a long ball down to Berenguer, who would smash a shot at goal only for the keeper to tip it wide. Hopefully good goalkeeping isn't a sign of things to come. Finally, we get an even better chance. Berenguer would find Bacice on an overlapping run, he drills a low cross across the box, and Unai Gomez arrives at the far post to tap it in. It's 3-3 on aggregate and we're level. You can't afford any mistakes, so Pilsen responding with a long-range effort took a really good save, but we're still level in this match. The game is actually really tense. You can tell both teams are pushing for the winner. Sancet would have a long shot from distance that the keeper just about managed to keep out, but we keep on pressing. And then from a corner, yet again Guruzzetta rises the highest and heads it in. We're ahead on aggregate for the first time in this tie. It feels like the stadium goes up another level of volume and you can feel the momentum all of a sudden in the squad. Just when it seems like I'm going to settle for a 1-goal cushion, Iñaki would seal it with this stunner. He flicks the ball over the defender's head and volleys it past the keeper on the bounce. Aguirre Zabala keeps his composure in the last couple of minutes, and he was so important to keeping this clean sheet and getting us through to the quarter-finals. So, we've made it this far while technically only losing 1 match in the Europa League. This is going to be a massive night in Turkey against Fenerbahce, of course a club managed by none other than Jose Mourinho. You could tell right from the start that he'd got the tactics spot on. One of Jose's former players, Azpilicueta, would make an error off the ball and he would bring down a Fenerbahce player in the box. The referee immediately points to the spot and Nesri steps up, but Aguirre Zabala is equal to it, diving low to make a crucial save. But Fenerbahce don't let up. They're moving the ball around so quickly with some really good one-touch football, and St. Maximin finds some space but misses the target. It's a let-off, but just a couple of minutes later he gets a chance to make up for it. After some flowing passing, he finishes neatly and we're down 1-0. This is turning out to be one of the toughest matches I've ever played in FIFA. Their pressure keeps mounting, and En-Nesyri, who missed the penalty, manages to score from close range after some more quick build-up. We're now 2-0 down, and it's starting to look pretty bleak. I don't want to point any fingers, but Nico Williams is having one of the worst matches of the season. Even the EA graphics team noticed that he's off his usual form. But could we get a lifeline? We're pretty good from corners, and yet again Guruzzetta rises above the Fenerbahce defence and heads it in. 2-1 and we're back in this tie. We do make some late subs, including taking Nico off after his stinker of a game, but Fenerbahce would hold strong, and that means yet again we're heading into the second leg needing a pretty big performance. I mean, to be honest, the only thing I really wanted to see before this game was the weather forecast. We're an awful team in the rain, it totally stops our passing football, and this game was going to be in the dry. Let them try and gegenpress us here, we'll find all of their gaps. It didn't take long after kickoff to see that our play was so much more fluid. In fact, the first real chance of the game fell to Nico Williams, but he was offside as usual. I guess at least the shot was saved anyway, but we're making so many chances, mainly from Iñaki, and his low cross causes a mix-up, but it was just about claimed by Livakovic. In fact, Livakovic was on top of absolutely everything. First of all, Nico would cut inside and smash one from the edge of the box, but Livakovic had it covered. And then Livakovic would stop Bacice, and finally Sancet. All of these could have been goals. With time ticking down, we decide to throw on all of our attacking options. Super sub Jallo from the first game of the season comes on. He immediately cuts inside, unleashes a fierce shot, but again, Livakovic is there. Every shot, every chance, Livakovic is stopping absolutely everything. But we're still pushing. Iñaki would play a clever ball through to Jallo, who's one-on-one, but once again, Livakovic pulls off another great save. Fenerbahce would go on the counter, and En-Nesyri would skip past a couple of our defenders. He would end up one-on-one with our goalkeeper in the dying moments, and he does what we couldn't and slots it in the corner. It's all over. It's 3-1 on aggregate, and our Europa League journey is going to end in Turkey. There's no way to describe this match as anything other than a Jose Mourinho masterclass. The rain beat us in the first leg, and Livakovic was the deserved man of the match in the second leg. I wasn't expecting to win the Europa League, but what a tournament we had. We've learned a lot about this club, about knockout football, and most importantly, how to win games. We'll need all of this knowledge next season if we can qualify for the Champions League. In fact, next episode, we'll be finishing our La Liga campaign and maybe even signing a few players for Season 2. We've got 6 big games coming up, including against Real Madrid, a Real Sociedad rivalry game, and a last game of the season finish against Barcelona. But I'll need your help to help find some players good enough for our team. Let me know in the comments if you have any ideas and subscribe so you don't miss it. Can we get Champions League football? It's going to be a huge episode, but thank you for watching this one. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.